Hello Underdogs, my name is Coach Hold. Pronouns are V and they, and today we are going to talk about resistance bands. These resistance bands, sometimes known as mini loops, sometimes power loops, medi bands, mini bands, or booty bands. Are some of my favorite pieces of equipment for working out at home or in the gym, just for making things more efficient and more effective. These resistance bands are incredibly versatile. You can use them as an addition to weighted exercises so that you don't need as many different weights of dumbbells, for example. You could also use them on their own as alternatives to weighted exercises. But most importantly, you can use them in body weight exercises to add an effectiveness to the workout, to help to build injury prevention into your muscles, activating the smaller muscle groups that are often neglected. They usually come in packs of 5. Sometimes you can customize the pack, and they come from extra light, light, medium, strong, and extra strong. Which strength of band you use depends on the exercise you do, what you want to achieve with it, and just your level of fitness personally. Now, I'm not going to tell you that you can use them as a replacement for all barbells and dumbbells and kettlebells and all sorts of other equipment. But if you don't have those available to you for whatever reason, or you don't have the space in your home to keep them, a small bag of resistance bands can go a really long way to give you a full body workout. Now, one of my favorite things about the bands is that they're incredibly cheap and they take up no space. I paid less than 15 quid for a pack of 5 bands, even in the middle of the pandemic, when a 5 kilo dumbbell would cost me 40 quid. Now, obviously, they are different from working with barbells, dumbbells, things like that. For example, they are restricted in how far you can move them. So you can't anchor it to the floor and bring it all the way up above your head, but you can stretch them a fair way before they get too tight to move. And they won't easily break. If you get a fault in it, let's say your cats are playing with it for some reason, they might break more easily, but generally speaking, you'd have to pull pretty hard on them to break them. Another way that they are different from working with any other kind of equipment is that the resistance varies. So at this point, the resistance isn't much at all, but the further you stretch it, the harder it is to maintain it, which means that it gets heavier the further you stretch it. Now, whether that's a negative or a positive, that depends entirely on what it is that you're trying to do. Now, they are restricted also in how much weight you can add to a movement with resistance bands. At a certain point, it becomes too much that you're able to stretch it at all. So they don't go as high in resistance as what you could do with dumbbells or barbells. But a great positive of the variable resistance is that as you're maybe bringing your arm out and you're stretching out those muscles, there's less resistance on those muscles, so you're less likely to be in a kind of injury risk zone. Now, additionally, because there's not a weight that you're holding up, gravity makes very little difference in terms of the movement. For example, if you wanted to do a row movement, you could do this standing, or you could do it bent over. The movement is the same through the muscle, and it depends a little bit on what it is that you're wanting to train in terms of what you choose to do. Another way that I find bands really interesting to work with is that they require a lot of focus. If you just go on autopilot, sometimes movements can feel really easy, and that's because you're getting out of position or compensating through your body to make the movement happen, or you're just not activating in the right ways. So it's really important that when you're doing movements with bands, you're really focusing on the band and focusing on what you're doing with your body in relation to the band. Finally, they're really easy to adjust difficulty with. Because the resistance changes depending on how far you stretch them, just changing your positioning or changing the positioning of the supporting arm or moving yourself away from the anchor point, you can change entirely how difficult it is. And you can also just add another band. If you're on the heaviest band already, add another band, make it a little bit more difficult. Over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to upload more than 20 videos demoing different exercises that you can do with the resistance bands. But since I'm so nice, I'm going to show you a few of them, a few of my favorites right now. The first one is a nice activator for the medial glutes, the side butt as I like to call it. It's the crab walk. You simply step side to side. You can either step alternating the direction every time, or you can walk all the way to the end of the room that you're in and then walk the way back. Next up is the squat, a nice basic movement that's made just a little bit more difficult and activating again through the medial glutes with the bands. You put it just under the knees, just like with the crab walks, and just squat as you normally would. The band will pull your knees together, and it's up to you to make sure that those knees stay in line with your toes. And this next one, the glute bridge. When you do this with a band, it becomes an incredibly important exercise for supporting your knees and your lower back and reducing the chance of injury and pain. You essentially just do a glute bridge as you normally would, but you have that band around your knees and you want to keep your lower legs nice and parallel and keeping the knees again in line with your toes. This is really good for activating the piriformis muscle, which is a tiny muscle deep inside your hips. If you struggle with knee pain, this is one to definitely try out because it might help you a lot. Next up is the parallel press. I always use this as a warm-up through my upper body sessions because it really helps to activate through the rotator cuff muscle and all of the different kind of external rotators of the shoulders, making sure that we keep those shoulders injury-free because shoulders are very prone to injury. The next one is the cuff rotation, which I also use all the time. It's really important in activating the cuff rotators, which is a group of really small and complex muscles that keep externally rotating your shoulders and keeping them injury-free. And the last one, just for fun, the band plank shuffle. You just do a plank and you walk it out wide, bring it in narrow, walk it out wide, bring it in narrow again. Get on down, do a band plank shuffle. Yeah. Okay, I'll stop doing that. Now these are just some of my favorite resistance band movements, and you'll find that the videos for these ones are already up in their own playlist on my channel. So if you go have a look at my channel, scroll down to see the playlist, you'll find a playlist there entirely devoted to resistance band workouts. And that playlist is going to grow as the weeks progress as well. If you found this video helpful, if you have any questions about what I've talked about in this video, or any requests for movements that you'd like to see in the exercise library, do feel free to leave a comment down below or send me a message. You can also find me at underdoghealth.co.uk, where you can find more information about working with me as a personal trainer. Again, comment, like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to see more, check out my playlists with all the different exercises from my library, and I'll see you next week when I'll make you a full workout that you can follow along with using the bands. Lower legs, nice and parallel. Today we are going to talk about resistance bands. Now,